Hey, this is Kayla.
And this is Chris, your hosts from Cult or Just Weird.
The episode you're about to listen to is actually a part 2. If you haven't listened to episode 5, The Catalyst, go back and check that one out first.
And we also wanted to give a quick heads up that, like in that episode, this one also includes some pretty heavy topics, in particular, child abuse, sexual assault, and suicide. If these issues are sensitive for you, consider skipping this one.
Otherwise, enjoy episode 6 of Cult or Just Weird. So outside of Teal's personal claims of being an alien, a deeply ancient being who's been reincarnated many, many times for hundreds of thousands, if not millions of years, a being who can remember everything that's ever happened to her in every iteration of her life, a psychic, a medical savant, a person who can see auras and energies, a being that has access to all records of all human knowledge, someone who has a photographic memory, a person who can look at you and zoom in on your body all the way down to the cellular level, and a spiritual catalyst akin to Gandhi or Jesus. What is she actually preaching? All of those things are real, by the way, that she says.
She like, that's quite the list.
Yeah. It can be hard to parse out exactly what Teal is teaching.
Yeah.
She has an affinity for pretty much every stereotypical New Age belief, like auras, chakras, third eyes, energy healing, anti-vax, anti-psychiatry, color therapy, crystal healing,
like
tarot cards, on and on and on, just all of
things.
them. What Teal's belief system goes back to is that basically all human beings are part of the same divine consciousness. We choose to come into these sentient lives, and when we die, we go back to being a part of that source consciousness. And that way, we are A, in control of our lives, and B, deeply connected to each other and our inherent spirituality. In fact, Teal manages to hold these somewhat oppositional ideas of 1, she's a leader with special powers, and 2, she's not special. We all have the ability to access the powers that Teal has, and if we just follow her teachings, we'll become enlightened just like she has.
That's a pretty common cult leader thing to say, yeah.
Her website describes her ideology as one of authenticity. Our world is built on pretense. We force ourselves and other human beings to conform to societal ideals, and we suppress our own authentic selves and experiences. This is why we feel depressed or anxious or lonely or disconnected. We feel unfulfilled. We turn to addictions. We feel powerless. We feel greedy or controlling, all because we can't, I missed a word here, all because we can't our own realities. Express our own realities. Teal looks to heal this by providing tools for her followers to connect with their own authentic selves and the spirituality therein.
And the authentic selves is what, like the aliens with like
the piece of source consciousness that you are.
Okay.
I don't know.
Got it. That's very authentic.
Along the way, she's able to fold in every New Age tool or belief you can think of while adding her own unique spin to it.
So at some point, I feel like we need to talk about why all of these New Age beliefs tend to, it's like very postmodern, right? Like
there's Ramtha in here.
Everything is everything.
Yeah, everything is everything.
Ramtha believes, aliens, lizard people.
You can control your own reality.
Auras, all the things.
Right.
So does Teal Swan.
Right.
Lizard people, auras, aliens.
Dude, so do flat earthers.
So do flat earthers.
Like literally, I searched Teal Swan on Twitter, and like one of the first things that came up was like a very prominent flat earther's wife talking about Teal and talking about
Teal, right? So I don't know what the answers or what the insight is here, but like it's very interesting and strange to me that all of these different belief systems are essentially they're all the same set of like 9 things. I
think it really comes down to like, here are the New Age belief systems, and everything else is a cult of personality.
Right.
It's like if you were a person who's able to be a Teal Swan or be a Ramtha.
Right.
It's not really your teachings, it's the way you teach.
Right. It's your charisma in presenting what is essentially the same thing.
Because all these people, like, you watch them and like you get it, you know?
Sure, yeah. Even Jay-Z, like remember when we watched her, like it was ridiculous.
Oh, like from like the 70s?
Yeah. But there was a presence for sure to her, the way she like presented herself and spoke.
This this transitions really nicely into about what I'm about to say.
Okay.
Because, like, the scary thing for me is that, like, even though I don't believe in Teal's backstory, I don't believe in her spiritual claims, I've watched some of her videos, and while some of them are kind of like, yeah, okay, weirdo, some of them are helpful. Like, some of them I go like, oh.
Really?
Some of them have, like, useful things to say. I watched her, one of her most recent videos titled Depression, the truth about depression that no one sees or understands. Like, I expected to watch, it's a half an hour video.
Ugh.
I expected to watch, like.
That makes me depressed.
Because I've watched multiple videos, but this one in particular, I was like, okay, I'm going to watch 5 or 10 minutes of this, get the general gist, move on. I watched the whole thing. I stayed at work a half an hour longer than I expected to because I watched every and I didn't just, like.
You didn't catch the teal bug, did you?
I didn't just even, like, I don't know, maybe. I didn't just, like, have it on in the background and was, like, working. Like, I sat there and I watched it. And the video's just her talking. There's no cool video.
So,
I guess, okay, she does, there's a lot of stock footage involved. Like, she'll be talking, and all of a sudden it'll transition to, like, some people on a beach, but it's mostly just her talking.
What is it that appeals to you, despite knowing that she has no background or expertise or anything?
I get into it.
Okay.
I will tell you exactly why. I watched this video. I'm someone who has been in therapy on and off for, like, traditional therapy for over a decade, specifically working on depression and, like, accompanying issues. And this video offered insights that even I found useful or helpful.
And novel?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Maybe not, like, totally novel, but definitely presented in a way that was novel, or at least, like, differently accessible.
Are you able to share them as, like, bite-sized enough to go on this on
Oh,
the air?
I'm getting into it.
Okay.
Like, I found it useful even knowing that Teal is fucking terrifying, and she's going to get a lot more terrifying as we go on.
Even knowing how crazy, terrifying, and evil a lot of her stuff is, you were still like, but this
video in particular makes me want to watch other videos of hers.
Wow. Oh my God.
So this video was basically saying that depression is the result of refusing to accept futility. That sounds kind of dumb, so let me explain. She talked at length about how so many of us try and seek fulfillment and success from areas that we just can't quite manifest. Like, maybe you get your self-worth from work, or, like, making money at work, and your inability to become a millionaire, like, leaves you feeling like a failure, so you just keep trying harder. Okay. Or you're in love with someone who doesn't love you back, and so you keep trying to get them. You keep not getting them. Or you wish you looked a certain way, or were a certain weight, a certain size, but you can never quite get to a place where you're happy, so you, like, diet harder, you wear more makeup, you buy different clothes, you're constantly working on your appearance. Eventually, you burn out. You keep trying to do this thing, you're going to burn out, and you are focusing on the thing that you don't have. I'm not thin, I'm a failure at work, no one loves me. So constantly striving for that, like, goal that you can't get to is constantly reminding yourself that you don't have it.
Okay.
And we're refusing to accept the reality that these goals are futile for us. For whatever reason, there's a futility there. It's not going to happen. You're never going to be a millionaire. You're never going to get married to that person. You're never going to be a model. Like, accepting that reality feels very scary, and maybe even feels like it puts you in danger of being more depressed. Like, if you go, well, if I don't think I'm going to be a millionaire, then I have nothing left to live for.
Right. If I can't have the thing that I want the most, then what's the point? Right.
But she argues that it's like trying to get into a city that's behind a closed gate. No matter what you try to do, the gate won't open for you. You can't go over it. You can't go around it. And you burn yourself out trying to open it. And all you're focusing on is the fact that this gate won't open for you and you can't get into that city.
Okay.
You spend all your time working on this, and you don't open yourself to other possibilities of getting that need met. Maybe you could look for another way into the city. You could look for a gate that's open. Maybe you could look for a different city. The video basically said that you have to accept that the thing that you're trying to do that's not working for you is futile, and that allows you to look for other places to get your needs met. If you can't feel like a success from your working life, how else can you feel like a success? Where else can you look for love if the object of your affection isn't the one for you? If you aren't going to change, if you're not going to be able to change your physical looks, how else can you find a way to love your body?
Okay.
And this kind of reframe honestly felt very useful to me. Like, I spent the entire drive home. I have an hour plus commute, and I spent the entire drive home thinking,
we
like,
live in LA.
Yeah. going, okay, here's a thing that I know I obsess over, that I do get depressed about, like that does fuel my depressive thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I know that this thing that I want is never going to happen. So yeah, it would be really useful to figure out what need I'm trying to get met by wanting this thing, and how else I can meet that need. How else can you meet
that need? Sure. I think that is a useful reframe. So as you're telling me this, like a lot of this, it doesn't sound, and I'm not trying to like shit on your experience or anything,
please
but to
do.
me, it doesn't sound tremendously novel. It sounds like the type of thing that I have talked about and or heard from and or, you know, whatever with legit with like CBT therapists.
Right.
And my question
I've
about the video.
I've never had a therapist go, I've never had a therapist go, that's never going to happen for you.
Interesting.
And maybe it's just because I've not had I don't know. I've never had somebody go, no, it's not going to happen. Well,
but have you had therapists that have said, like, it doesn't matter whether it does or doesn't?
Sure, but I think that's a different thing.
It's a different thing, but I don't know if it's, to me, that doesn't feel, to me, it's never going to happen doesn't feel any more therapeutic than it doesn't matter whether it happens or not. But that may just be me.
I think for me, there's a difference.
That may just be me. There certainly is a more radical acceptance. If you accept that it's never going to happen, then it doesn't matter, because it doesn't matter means that you leave yourself open to the like, but it could.
Right.
But at the same time, saying it doesn't matter, I think is, it removes the obsession, right? It removes the like, it's not that this gate won't open for me. It's that this gate doesn't, I don't even care about the city.
Right.
It's not that I am going to sit here and think about not getting into the city and I'll never get into the city. It's saying like, why do I even, what's the point of that city? If the city is not the thing, the city is the need that you're trying to meet. Okay.
So like using the body image thing. Let's use the body image thing.
Okay.
That's the like gate, I think. It's like you have this goal of like, I'm going to weigh 100 pounds.
Mm-hmm. Don't weigh 100 pounds. That would be unhealthy.
Yeah. I'm going to weigh 100 pounds. And because for most...
Actually, that was really mean. Weigh whatever you want and whatever your natural weight is. If you're a smaller person, 100 might actually be fine.
Right. For a vast majority of people, 100 pounds is not an attainable goal.
Sure. I just didn't want to like
I'm not
project any...
I'm moving on.
Yeah.
And so you're going to keep trying to like reach this unreachable goal.
Sure.
The city is, why are you trying to be 100 pounds? What is that going to do for you? Is that going to grant you self-love? Is that going to grant you self-acceptance? Is that like, so if I can't lose 100 pounds, or if I can't be 100 pounds, how do I meet the need of loving my body in a different way?
So this might be, I don't want to maybe like drag this on too much while we're on the podcast, so maybe we should take it offline. But I'm curious, is the point in identifying the unmet need, or is the point in saying this will never happen?
Both.
Because it sounded like that this will never happen was the piece that you hadn't heard from a therapist. But it also sounds like the important part is identifying the unmet need.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's like the second half of the video. Yeah.
Okay. So then I have another question then, which is, does she say this is full stop, that's where depression comes from? Or she says this is one thing that can lead to negative thoughts, negative frameworks, negative emotions, and contribute to depression.
So my next sentence in my notes was, but, and it's a big old but, this isn't how depression works.
Yeah.
I know Teal is trying to say that this is the truth that no one wants to tell you, but the reality is the only proof we have that this is the truth about depression is Teal's word. And if we look at what the medical community has to say about depression, like we're answered with years and years of scientific research and evidence, and the medical community agrees that depression, like generally all mental illness, stems from an underlying chemical imbalance that can be triggered by environmental factors.
Right.
That's depression.
Yes.
Depression is chemicals in your brain that may or may not be triggered by something that happens in your life. You can get depression without having an environmental factor trigger it.
Right.
And you can develop depression from an environmental trigger.
That then leads to the imbalance that causes it. Right. Okay.
And you can't think yourself out of depression.
Right. Right. So that's that's what I was thinking the whole time you were telling me that. So but I guess, and maybe I'm putting words in your mouth here, but you're saying that you found some efficacy from the video, even though the sort of the conclusions it draws about depression are not true. Right. You're saying that you still found some of the things she said to be like, this is a useful way for me to think about some stuff that bothers me.
Right. Like the only reason Teal's method here might quote unquote work for me, or like that I might go, oh, there's something useful here, is because I've done years of CBT to rewire my brain and treat my depression. And like I've tried multiple different antidepressants and antidepressant combinations, and like I've found what works for me. And it's like I've done all of this work already on depression. And so Teal's teaching here is a cherry on top. It's another cool thing to try.
Okay.
It's not, if you are in the illness, it's not going to cure you. It's not going to fix it. You're not even going to be able to like utilize this technique.
Right. And I'll add too, just because like this is, I thought you were going down a different path with that sentence for a second. I was like a little nervous. But when you say you've done this and you've done that and you've done the other thing.
Or have been doing.
Well, yeah, you have been doing, but you're also saying that you have found efficacy from that stuff.
Yes.
Not, I've tried this and it didn't work, so the only thing left for me is Teal.
No.
You're not saying that. You're saying
I've done the work.
I've done so much other real work that I feel healthy enough.
Right.
That I can pick and choose the precise little thing that she said out of that swamp of shit. I can take that little diamond out and I can make use of it. But that's only because you have the skill to do that from years of work.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Because you're not going to cure your depression no matter how much futility you accept. Like that's not how it works. You have to do the work. Like you have to do traditional therapy. You have to probably incorporate medication here.
You can't think your way out of it.
And because like my depression is managed, like I manage it every day. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. I'm able to look at this video and go, oh, that's a useful thing to add.
Right.
Anyway, a lot of Teal's teachings are like this. They provide a different way to think about a thing, and that's cool.
Right.
But like you're not going to spiritual your way out of a real mental illness. For people that
don't have those skills and tools, they get sucked into the swamp.
And especially because this person is going, no, don't go to therapy.
Right.
Psychiatry and therapy is bad for you. By and large, is bad for you.
Right.
Listen
but my
to me.
psychedelic bikinis will heal you, though.
Psychedelic bikinis, my new band name.
That's my new cult. So,
okay. That's ritual. That's harm.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're gonna like really get into harm.
Oh.
This is the bad part.
The bad part? We talked about child abuse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, now we're going to talk about suicide.
Oh.
We've touched on it before. We're going to focus on it for a moment. We're not going to get too heavy into it because it sucks. Sucky topic. Teal Swan's followers call her the catalyst or the spiritual catalyst because they believe she is the one person who's going to push the entirety of humanity into the next level of spiritual evolution. Teal Swan's detractors, however, call her the suicide catalyst, not just because of her iffy understanding and handling of mental health issues like depression and suicide, but because she has espoused teachings that seemingly encourage suicide.
Oh, God.
And at least 2 of her followers have died by suicide while practicing Teal's teachings.
That ticks off the expected harm box.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't want to dip too heavily into this because suicide is an intense topic. It's a viral topic. Like we don't want
to bum people out or make or worse. Right.
The Gateway podcast focuses primarily on Teal's relationship to suicide. So if you're interested in this, check it out. It's really? Largely about that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It really examines the topic in a way that like we never could.
That's intense. Okay.
Let's touch on this before moving on. Because Teal believes we're all part of this same source consciousness, because we all undergo reincarnation, because we've all chosen to be here, even if we don't know it. Suicide isn't the tragedy to her as it is to the rest of us.
Oh, man.
We talked before.
That reminds me of the Ramtha thing where it was like, murder's okay because we're all part of the spiritual something.
Teal teaches her followers to go towards their negative emotions rather than away from them. She encourages this for suicide as well.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I don't know. Like, that sounds not like the right thing to do, but I also know that like trying to dismiss thoughts can also be bad because then it can cause you to like fixate more. So I don't know. I'm not a psychologist, but
if you are feeling suicidal, call the suicide hotline. We will put the link in the show notes. I should have the number right now. I don't. But generally, from what I understand, the consensus isn't to like start thinking more about the plan.
That definitely seems wrong.
It's to intervene.
Yeah.
That's not what Teal preaches.
Cool. Good job, Teal.
If you're feeling suicidal, don't try to ignore it or try to feel better. Face the feelings. Try to understand why they're there. Go through the completion process and decide what your choice is. Like, I remember...
So she's basically going to go, do it. Just go ahead and do it. Fuck, I don't believe you.
No. I mean... We'll talk about it.
Oh, God.
I remember watching an early Teal Swan video years ago where she talked about how there's nothing wrong with committing suicide.
Oh, my God.
Especially if you can just, like, commit it tomorrow. Her argument was that by deciding to kill yourself when you're in crisis, if you decide to just kill yourself later, you remove the push and pull and you can focus on what you really want. You can focus on feeling better. It's like taking away the food that you're craving makes you crave it more. Telling yourself, okay, but you can have the food you crave tomorrow, lessens the craving.
I guess I get the like anecdotal thinking about it logic behind that, but that's like a really dangerous thing to just be like, I think it's this.
Well, she also says that the suicide hotline isn't efficacious, and it very much is.
Oh, cool.
The suicide hotline is extremely efficacious. It's one of the greatest tools we have to intervene.
Yes, yeah.
Hopefully... Yeah, okay. So she's like, hopefully with, if you can push away the plan, you can work on feeling not suicidal anymore. Her exact quote from her video, I want to kill myself, what to do if you're suicidal, follows as, so here's what I want you to try. Number 1, you have to know that you can always kill yourself tomorrow. You can always kill yourself in 5 minutes, in fact. And what does this do for us when we actually acknowledge that this is the case? It makes it so that suicide can be our safety net or a reset button that's always available to us. Why is that important? It means we can set suicide aside because it's always an option long enough to focus on the 5 minutes that right in front of our face, or the hour, or the day that's right in front of our face. I want you to live with this in mind. I can always commit suicide tomorrow, so what can I do with today? Or if tomorrow seems too large of a timeline, make it I can always kill myself in an hour. So knowing what I can do in that hour, then use that hour or that day to focus completely and totally on quite literally anything that makes you feel a tiny bit of relief.
So I don't know if I should say this on the podcast, but like that actually sounded not terrible.
I know. It's
like, I don't know anything about suicide. I don't want to make any recommendations or anything like that. But from a totally uninformed standpoint, that whole paragraph did not sound like a bad idea.
We can talk about bad ideas if you want, because it goes deeper than that.
Oh, God.
I'm gonna read some more quotes from Teal herself about suicide. I'm gonna try to present them in context so it doesn't seem like we're just cherry picking. And this is what makes her fucking terrifying.
Okay, so I don't know, maybe I'm like getting ahead of you here, but like just I'm not saying, oh yeah, suicide, that sounds great. Like, it's, if what she's doing is saying like, yeah, you can kill yourself because we're all part of the same conscience, do it, fuck it, I don't care. That sounds really shitty and evil to me. If what she's doing is like trying to remove the obsession via like, exploiting the way minds work or whatever, when they fixate and focus on things, then that seems less evil.
Right.
But again, I don't know how this stuff works.
Right. And she talks about like, I'm the only person who's willing to like really talk about this. I'm the only person who's really willing to like get down in the dirt and the mud with you and really face this and really talk about it.
It's so important. Like, not to toot my own horn here, but like, it's so important to say you don't know.
Right.
And that's the problem with a lot of these people, is that that phrase is just not a part of any of these things. Like, being comfortable with being like, I'm not an expert. Like, I don't know, is just so foreign. She can't have followers if she... Right, no, I know, which that makes it evil to me. Like, anyway, sorry, go on with the... We'll get into the evil. This quote is from a video that was created 6 days after Teal's first client committed suicide. Oh, God. And I don't know if it was her first client, but it was like
of the two that we know of, this is the first one. In 2012. This client's suicide is covered heavily in the Gateway. It's really awful. This woman was working personally with Teal, often one-on-one, and she was one of Teal's original followers and dealt with really serious mental health issues. And this woman's husband still believes in Teal. Like, still follows her.
Man, I like... Good Lord.
Quote, "What suicide is pushing the reset button. It's not a good or bad decision in and of itself. It's not something that Source either condones or condemns. You cannot say that suicide is wrong without also saying that death is wrong. Death is always a choice. You choose not to participate in the same way as you choose to participate in the first place, because you are 2 points of perspective. What I mean by this is every single death on this earth could be seen as a suicide because in order to die, your individual perspective has to align with your higher self perspective in order to die."
What?
Yeah, I don't know what the rest of that means, but she's basically saying, like, suicide's a reset button.
Right, because she believes in, like, reincarnation or whatever, so it's just like, oh, you know, reset. It's like when Mario dies.
Right. Yeah. During a workshop in San Diego around the same time, she seemed to praise...
This makes me feel ill.
Yeah, she seemed to praise the experience of suicide. Quote, "For the majority of people here on Earth, death is such a liberation that you would give it to yourself. To experience death is like to experience all those things you like at once, and then you go past that layer of reality and you are in a complete and utter peace."
How the hell does she know what it's like to die? Has she died?
She remembers.
Oh, I guess that's right.
She remembers everything that she's ever experienced. Yeah.
Right. So she has died in her mind and remembers it all.
Teal also claims, she's claimed this multiple times, to be able to tell if someone she's talking to wants to die or not, whether or not like they agree. It's like, oh no, you think you want to live, but your vibrations are telling me that you don't.
Okay.
During a Miami workshop, attendees witnessed the following exchange. Guest, "Because I want to be happy and I want to live." Teal, "That's a cop-out because you don't. I want to be happy and I want to live is not the real truth for you. Do you see that? You're the kind of person who doesn't actually want to live yet. You haven't committed to life yet. So that's a lie. Sure, you would like it if life felt good, but you don't. But you don't feel like it's possible, so you would rather die." We can keep going. Okay. Teal has also been accused of treating the topic of suicide flippantly and without empathy, especially when talking about her clients that killed themselves.
I see that.
She tries to liken herself to having this like no bullshit, just the facts, straightforward attitude, but her detractors see it as more than that. Like they see it as she's just kind of like, heh.
Yeah.
She also incorporates suicidal ideation into her teachings.
Why is this such a big part of her thing? Like that's such like remember we were just talking about how all of these like belief systems are the same? This one definitely feels unique to her. I think that answers your question. Oh, that's like her secret sauce? That's what makes people pick her. Out of all of the people they could pick, she's specifically collecting people who are... If you're at a point where you're suicidal, you want and need help, right? Yeah. And if this person is the one that's coming to you, God, I'm gonna throw up. Yeah. Oh my God. Like that's she is specifically seeking out suicidal people, and I think that I think there's two ways to look at it. There's one, this is disgusting and awful, and she's being exploitive. And two, she has been suicidal herself. She knows what it's like. She truly believes in her teachings, and she wants to help people not have the experiences that she's had. I know. It's so hard to tease all this stuff apart because it's like she's got merch. Like clearly this is also like a commercial venture for her, which like, I'm a laissez-faire dude, but I don't know if like profiting off of like suicidal ideation should be a thing, even in capitalism. I don't know. It seems weird to be. Well, like I said, she incorporates suicidal ideation into her teachings. The Gateway Podcast reports on a group session that Teal guided in which she instructed her followers to participate in a guided meditation by her. The lengthy meditation asked them to focus on their own deaths. We're going to become suicidal for a moment, she says. It's like for 15 minutes, these people were instructed to visualize their deaths, like feel the pain, feel the experience of dying, what comes after, including like visualizing their own funerals. And like these deaths included suicides. Jesus. So are we at the end of the suicide section? Because I want to ask you a question. No, okay. We still got more.
During a workshop in New York, she instructed a guest on stage to imagine and describe their own violent suicide process, what they would do if they were going to kill themselves. When the guest admitted that it was the 1-year anniversary of her own father trying to kill himself, Teal smiled and said, "Oh, it's perfect timing," which elicited a laughter from the audience.
They laughed at this. Sorry, keep going. Let's power through it.
These are just a few examples. A Teal Swan watchdog website called Teal Swan Exposed has an entire catalog of examples of Teal either praising suicide, advocating suicide, dangerously handling the topic, or behaving flippantly when it comes to the topic. So I'm going to be sure to link that because you scroll through and there's just example after example after example. So I'm going to close out the suicide topic with a quote that Teal gave during a 2013 workshop in Santa Fe, talking directly about that first client she lost to suicide that we've mentioned. Remember, there's been 2 that we know of. Quote, "I actually, interestingly enough, lost my first client to suicide this last year. And this was a woman who was absolutely miserable. I'm talking every moment of her life was a nightmare. And so we had that very serious sit-down talk where we had to say, all right, we're either committing or not committing to life. Because every time I gave her a suggestion, she'd stop it in 2 days. So then we have to ask the question, do we really want this to work? And what's interesting is that when she asked herself that question, the answer was no, I'm done. There's nothing that any healer could ever do for that type of vibration, which is totally fine. From source energy, there's nothing wrong with death from that perspective. So she chose to commit suicide."
This is going to be a really intense, Culture Just Weird episode for people to listen to.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Okay. Remember earlier today I was like, I can't wait to talk about our topic that I don't know.
Yep.
You didn't even warn me.
No.
So this is horrific, is basically what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And if we're sort of at the end of this section, first of all, great. Second of all,
yeah, I said I'm just gonna brush on it. That's just brushing on it.
Yeah, that wasn't even my question, but yeah, that's okay. That was the brush, because that didn't seem like a brush. That seemed like an in-depth dive. Okay, my question to you is, do you think that the things that she says and does with these people that she tends to attract helps more people than it harms?
I don't have a good answer to that. And that's also a question that the Gateway Podcast asks.
Yeah.
And they don't have a good question. They don't have a good answer to it either. I don't have a good answer to that. Because
this is why I don't like gray area.
I do think people are helped by her.
Right.
I think that if 2 people have killed themselves because of her teachings,
that's definitely on the harm side.
That would make me, if I were teaching something that made somebody kill themselves, that would make me go, I should probably reevaluate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I don't think there's been much reevaluation.
Right.
I know there was one Facebook comment where she tried to make it clear, no, I was really sad when this happened. It sent me into crisis, and again, if this is somebody that's dealt with suicidal ideation and dealt with suicide attempts,
right.
I don't want to make judgments about their relationship to suicide, but this person is very specifically teaching on this topic.
Yeah.
And seeking out people who are in that level of crisis.
It seems very dangerous, yeah. It's interesting because I sort of going through this, as you were talking about that, it was kind of triggering this train of thought where it's even if she's helping more people than she's harming, right? It's sort of like the train problem where it's would you switch the train to kill 1 person instead of 5? Right. So if we could envision a universe where there is no Teal Swan, would there be more suicides from this group, from this population of people that in our universe is interacting with Teal Swan?
Right.
But maybe the better question is even though, let's say that we had knowledge of that universe and we, by the, numbers subtraction, we determine that she's helping people because in the other universe, 10 people kill themselves or whatever.
Right.
But maybe it should be the train thing where we're okay, I could pull the switch, but in real life, because that's what we're talking about here. We're not talking about, a philosophy class question.
Right.
We're talking about real life. Maybe I would try to see can I call the train and be like, yo, you got to stop? Or
Right.
can I somehow rescue all 6 people?
Right.
So when, I guess that's kind of was triggered by the thought or when you said, reevaluate, right? So even if she is maybe helping more people than she's harming, she's still harming people. So what are you doing that's causing that to happen?
Right.
That shouldn't be a thing.
Right.
So try to, even if you're saving 5 in favor of 1, let's talk about that 1.
But if in this like school of philosophy, suicide isn't the tragedy that you and I think of as it is.
That's the thing though, is that's what to me makes it feel dangerous. It is dangerous. To rational people, death is not good. Like, you don't want somebody to commit suicide, but if you remove that from the equation, then it opens you up to this whole question of like her motivation, right? Like, is she actually motivated by helping these people to feel better, to not want to commit suicide, whatever it is,
right? Or
is she being motivated by this like, it doesn't matter because they'll go back to the spirit force,
right?
And that's the part that seems really dangerous.
Is also worth mentioning that there are people who, and this can be said for lots of different kinds of like legitimate therapy.
Yeah.
There are people who find themselves, once they start going through like Teal's processes and start like uncovering their traumas and uncovering their memories, find themselves doing worse.
Sure, if you're starting to implant a bunch of abuse memories in your head, yeah.
So, like, if the possibility is that this person is making people suicidal,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
That is no bueno.
No.
Yeah.
Because I'm sorry, if I found out that my entire childhood was a horror show of satanic ritual abuse, probably would make me really in crisis.
Yeah.
So
this is very icky.
Yeah, it's very icky.
This whole episode.
So we're just going to wrap up this entire topic.
Can we talk about a video game again?
No. We're going to wrap up this topic. We're going to address population of cult and percentage of life consumed in a 1-2 punch. This part's less sad.
Yeah, I hope so, because so far we've talked about like implanting abuse memories into children, separating them from their parents, and causing people to kill themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't even know how it could get worse.
No, it's going to be fine now.
Okay, thank God.
One thing I didn't mention earlier is that Teal Swan has an honest-to-God commune in Costa Rica.
Oh, snap. That sounds fun.
Called Philia. Now, when I first learned about Teal Swan, she was just some lady who could wrangle 30 or so guests at a speaking event and was based out of Salt Lake City, and now she's a fucking big deal. The Philia Center was founded by Teal in 2016. According to the website, Philia is an ancient Greek word meaning deep friendship and affection. So, quote, Philia, as the name suggests, is a sacred space where healing occurs first and foremost through connection. It is our intention that at Philia, each person will experience new depths of interpersonal connection, emotional intimacy, and relationship.
And maybe kill themselves.
So this is where Teal lives now, with Blake. Remember Blake, one of her original followers.
Blake Swan. In my head.
He's not the Swan.
No, I know.
Somebody else's Swan. And there's a not small handful of staff and volunteers. It is described as, on the website, as a, quote, intentional business community hybrid.
Intentional business community hybrid.
So I've heard the phrase intentional community, and like that's what...
Isn't that what Irvine is?
That's what a commune is. Okay. But intentional business community hybrid, I've never heard.
It sounds dope as hell.
The website also refers to Teal Swan with the title The Spiritual Luminary, which is also dope as hell. She hosts numerous workshops at the center when she's not traveling on her speaking tours. Everyone who works there is a certified completion process practitioner, and they serve only vegan meals. The retreats fall under categories like relationships, presence, creativity, etc.
Whoa, hold on. Whoa. Why only vegan meals? If we kill cows, don't they just go back to the mother spirit?
It's low vibration.
Oh, you don't want to eat the wait.
You don't want to cause harm.
Cows are higher vibration than plants, right? Or do I not know about my vibrations?
I think that I don't know.
Please
don't ask me.
I'm not well schooled in the vibrational physics of something.
They're vegans.
Well, as long as I can get psychedelic bikinis.
The Gateway podcast host Jennings Brown travels to Philia and attends events there in person. And a lot of intense shit happens. Like, it's just all completion process all the time. The people attending compete with each other to spend time with Teal. Like, they get jealous of each other. Oh,
God. This is
She has, like, this entourage that follows her around. This
reminds me of Rajneesh Puram.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Very similar.
Are they all boning, too?
Probably. I hope so. I hope they're at least getting some pleasure.
Right.
She hosts meditations and seminars. She teaches participants to channel. And Teal believes you can channel literally anything. Like, not just spirits, but, like, emotions and objects and, like, people who are still alive. Like, you can channel their energy. Like, people you've never met. Like, you can just be like, oh, I'm going to channel Oprah. And I'm Oprah now.
Just, like random real people that exist?
Yes. Like, there are...
Awesome.
The Gateway podcast talks about these, like, activities where people channel...
Can I channel Bill Gates and figure out how to make $1 billion? Okay.
Like, these people who think, who have learned that they had a traumatic event happen in their childhood, they can, re-go through the process and of that abuse. And then, like, the other attendees can channel their parents and, like, be their parents.
I don't know.
It's also very dangerous.
That's weird.
There's this amazing moment I know I keep talking about the Gateway. Just go listen to it. There's this amazing moment where Jennings Brown is interviewing someone at Philia, and all of a sudden you just start hearing this series of blood-curdling screams in the background.
My God.
And, like, this Philia volunteer, like, kind of giggles and says, someone's in their heart right now.
In their heart?
I still don't really know what it means, but I think it means that someone was, like, getting in touch with some, like, extreme, deep, traumatic emotions, but it's, like, a chilling moment, because it's just, like, these brutal screams.
Oh my God. This is not good.
Not mentioned on the Philia website, but mentioned multiple times on the Gateway, many of the people who work at Philia are volunteers who traveled there to attend a workshop and never left. Because they just love Teal and her teaching so much, they literally just don't go home.
Is Philia, like, awesome, too? Because it's in Costa Rica. They're just, like, palm trees and margaritas or something?
It's like a nice place.
Okay.
A nice mansion.
Okay.
Beautiful grounds.
Okay.
But these people just don't go home. They dedicate their lives to volunteering to work for Teal. I'm
picturing it to be like Bachelor in Paradise. Is that?
Yeah, less nice.
Oh.
Like the website even says, like, Philia is old, so it has, like, some quirks and character, but it's a beautiful place.
Quirks and character means that there's, like, a room that is in disrepair.
Yeah, kind of. It looks nice, but it's not, like, the nicest place you've ever been.
Right.
Some more interesting tidbits. Each room has a Teal Swan frequency painting associated with it. There are carefully chosen crystals strategically placed all around the property to shape the energetic flow.
Gotta have crystals.
There is on-site security, including 24/7 video cameras.
Right.
Oh, and you can also just, like, rent out Philia. Like, it's an option on her website.
I can?
You can just rent it.
You can just rent her, like, cult mansion?
I also saw it on Expedia. As, like, listed as a hotel. I couldn't find dates that you could, like, actually stay there, but it's on Expedia. It's weird.
We should go.
Well, if you want to go to one of her retreats, they generally cost around $5,000.
That's a really good way to spend $5,000.
Not including airfare.
Do you know how many Chipotle burritos I could buy with that?
A lot.
The size of the Chipotle burritos, probably like 6 or 7. But
yeah.
That's pretty good.
And it's, like, for 6 days.
$1,000 a day.
I think it's $5,000
Oh my
if
God.
you.
Why are we doing this? We should be starting our own cult. Why are we doing this dumb podcast?
Well, okay. It's $5,000 if you want your own room. It's $4,200 if you're okay sharing.
Wait.
Yeah, so if you only get an $800 discount.
No, I'm thinking of it from her perspective. So she can either get $5,000 per room or like $8,400 per room.
Right.
That's great for her business-wise. She's a very savvy, suicide ideation-inducing businesswoman.
So that's Philia. That's what you need to know about that. So let's talk about Facebook.
Okay.
I guess we'll talk about all social media a little bit here, but I'm mostly going to focus on Facebook.
Right, because you said that she was like influencer extraordinaire.
Yeah. There are 2 main Teal Swan Facebook groups that I could find. The first is the official Teal-affiliated, though generally follower-led group called Teal Tribe. Teal herself is in this group. And 2, the Love of Teal Swan Society, which is just like a Teal Swan appreciation group. Love of Teal Swan Society has 2.7 thousand followers. Teal Tribe has 26,628 members.
Okay.
And as of a few weeks ago, I am one of them.
Excellent.
When you join the group, you're asked to answer a few questions to prove that like you're a Teal Swan follower. Mm-hmm. And apparently I bullshitted well enough to get approved.
Yeah, you've done that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
No spoilers for future episodes, but
the shocking thing to me is that I'm approved to be in Teal Tribe, the specific like core group of Teal Swan followers. I haven't been approved to Love of Teal Swan Society. Huh. That's still pending. I had to answer questions for that one too. Apparently they have better moderators.
Yeah.
I don't have too much interesting to report about my time in Teal Tribe. Like, it's mostly just a self-help group for spiritual folks who, talk to each other about Teal's teachings, help each other when they're in crisis, ask questions, try and get in touch with Teal, that kind of thing. It's just like a Facebook group, but they're obsessed with Teal and her teachings. I'm not saying that it's not interesting and fascinating to be a part of, and like the questions that people ask, it's just, I haven't been able to pick anything out that was worth mentioning. It's all just like,
compared to the stuff you've talked about already, that is pretty dull stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should also mention that Teal Swan's Facebook page, not the group, but like
her personal,
this is the Teal Swan page.
Yeah.
519,000 followers.
Oh, that's significantly more.
She has 570,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Okay, that's respectable.
109,000 followers on Instagram and 16,000 on Twitter. So not a small amount of followers.
No.
Before we make our decision, I just want to bring this all the way back to the beginning where we talked about false memories.
Is this whole thing a false memory that you planted in my head?
None of this is real. No.
Because it does feel a little traumatic.
Yeah.
It feels like you're just implanting trauma in my brain.
Yeah.
By talking about somebody that implants trauma in others' brains.
No. But that is what started this whole thing.
That's a shame, because I wish that was true.
Teal is who she is because she strongly probably believes in false memories, and she thinks that she has, like, repressed memories or whatever. And she doesn't believe in false memories. She believes in recovered memories.
Recovered, repressed memories.
Yes. Yeah. She remembers satanic ritual abuse with no corroboration. She had a therapist who has been accused and disgraced over her false memory implantation in patients.
Who's still practicing.
Yeah. And still has an obsession with satanic ritual abuse. Teal teaches that we all have trauma, much of which we can't remember and need to access, and can only do so through her teaching and processes. And Teal knows that those memories are really real and really happened, even if you don't, because she has access to the Akashic records and she just simply knows everything. So basically you can't
trust to shut down any kind of disagreement.
You can't trust yourself. You can't trust your memories. Like, the only thing you can trust is what Teal has to say. And in reality, we can't trust our emotions and our memories. Like,
right. Which is
outside of Teal.
That's a hard thing to accept for, like, even for people that are otherwise rational or hear this information. Like, it's, I mean, even for us, right? Like, it's just to know that you can't trust something as fundamental as your memories, which is essentially who you are. Right. Is kind of a hard thing to talk about or accept. Right. And it just goes back to that whole thing of, like, our memories are not photographs. They're amalgamations. Right. And it's not to say that memories don't serve us and, like, create who we are. They do that. And, generally I think they can be trusted, but they're not, like you said, they're not photographs. They're not a database. They're not accessible with perfect precision and accuracy down to the minute. Right. Our sensory perceptions are not, like, the be all and end all evidence of what reality is. Right. But, like, just because we can't trust our memories and emotions doesn't mean that we should trust, like, a spiritual guru. Right. You can't trust. Like, that's why shit like science and therapy are so important, because they, like, actually help us figure out what's true about the world. They give us a framework for understanding what's true. Right. Teal claims to do that better. And like we mentioned, many people do feel helped by her. And like I said, even that, like, the depression video, I found something, like, useful and helpful in it. So it's scary to me that she can say things that are so crazy and fucked up and untrue and still offer something useful. And finally, that brings us to the end of our Teal Swan overview. Do you feel ready
to answer the question. We are here to answer.
I feel...
Is Teal Swan a cult or just weird?
So here's a few things. First of all, I feel more ready to answer this question than I have in either of our 4 previous episodes.
Yeah.
I'm like way on one side.
Oh, I don't want to spoil the Gateway podcast, even though I have.
Even though you have like 5 times, yeah.
I'm not going to say what she says, but she addresses the question of whether or not it's a cult.
I feel we should actually say that if you heard her say something.
Do you want me to say what she says?
I mean, yeah, our show is about
She
cults.
definitely doesn't say it's a cult.
Yeah, well, I would have been surprised if she did.
She says that it's not a cult because she's so aware that she has the perfect recipe for a cult.
Literally everybody says that.
I have the perfect recipe and I know it, and that's why I'll never accidentally stumble into this being a cult because I'm too aware.
Yeah, all the cult leaders say that. To the man, they all say that. So yeah, I mean, like, we'll definitely go through the criteria because that's our shtick, and apparently it's some people like it. But Steve said that he liked it.
Thanks, Steve.
I definitely feel like one way or another on this. I also, before we go through them step by step, I don't know that last statement you made about, like, does she help some people?
Right.
It feels like where we are now is that the balance is definitely more on the side of harm.
Don't forget that this is very biased. Yeah. Like, I didn't talk about all the people that only have good things to say about her, you know?
Yeah.
I didn't talk about all the people that, like, truly believe that this woman has helped and changed their lives. And, like, yes, it's fucked up for me to go, like, oh, you went to a retreat and now you stayed there. But if that person feels like they're living their best life, who am I to say they're not? It's not like they're being held there against their will.
No, I mean, yeah, but that's, like, true for a lot of this stuff, right? Like, we're definitely making a judgment call.
I think it's a cult. Like, I'm sorry. I think it's a cult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're definitely making a judgment call about whether people get harmed or not even, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, if you don't think you're getting harmed, but then it's so, like, it's really, it comes down to, like, solipsistic stuff, because it's like, how can I really tell how you feel, especially when how you feel can actually be unreliable to yourself?
Right.
Or is it just paternalistic when I say, like, no, you shouldn't be at that retreat forever because...
Right.
I don't know. But it certainly seems to me from this, and I think that the nature of our podcast is to veer towards skepticism and objectivity. It seems like objectively she is causing more harm than she is causing people to get helped.
Right.
That really seems to be the case to me.
If it almost doesn't matter if she is helping people, if the way her process goes is you can only trust my word.
Yeah, there's a lot.
It doesn't it almost doesn't matter what you're offering then, because you're cutting people off from seeking help elsewhere.
There's a lot of red flags, and that's one of them. Yeah. So yeah, we should do the criteria, which let's call back all the way to the beginning of the episode. Or maybe last episode if we break this up. So actually, I guess we just kind of did talk about expected harm.
Yeah.
So I'm giving that a strong yes for me.
There are people that die. There are people that, and again, even if you don't die, you have the possibility of having false memories implanted in you. You have the possibility of, like, damaging your relationships with your family because of all of a sudden your Teal's like, oh no, your parents abused you.
Yeah.
Like, and then again, even if you're not harmed in that way, if you are brought to believe by somebody that they're the only one that has the answer, that's harm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So I think that's pretty clear. I might be going through these backwards. I apologize. Population of cult, which is basically just our, bias for religion. Like, are you a religion or a cult?
That's where I'm not clear on, because while
hers is big.
Well, Philia, there's probably 20 people there, right?
Okay. But
she's got 500,000 Facebook followers.
Right. So maybe she's just a religion.
And I think that they talk about that on the Gateway.
Actually, that's kind of a weird criteria.
There's somebody on the podcast who used to be a follower of her, and he says she's a cult and a religion.
I see.
And I think that that's a really good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so population, pretty big. So it's basically what we're saying is that it's not niche.
Right.
anymore.
Yeah,
it's gotten big. Thanks,
I
YouTube.
don't think she has any,
YouTube.
like, celebrity followers yet.
Sure.
But it's only a matter of time.
Give her time, yeah. And maybe she does. Who knows? Anti-factuality, we definitely talked about the closed logical system, the motivated reasoning of, I don't care what you say about implanting false memories. That's not what's happening. It's repressed memories. That's the true thing. So there's that motivated reasoning there. There's all these anti-factuality, there's all these false memories in people's brains thanks to this organization.
Right.
So there's a lot of that. Percentage of life consumed. Well, for 2 of her followers, it's 100% forever. The end.
Yeah.
Sadly.
Well, and also, like, people leave their lives to go...
They live in her commune.
Be in her commune. And then also,
that's
like...
100%.
People spend all of their time in this Facebook group, and people watch her video... Like, people watch her videos over and over, and people who, like, watch them religiously, they're watching, like, weekly or daily, and, like...
Well, that sounds a lot like our next criteria, which is ritual. But even the process stuff sounds like ritual.
Right.
Like putting her paintings on the wall while she's talking sounds like ritual.
Right.
Speaking in a hypnotic, sort of like suggestive tone sounds like there's a lot of ritual going on. Yeah. She has a logo that I thought was pretty dope.
Right.
There's
her
tattoo.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like accoutrement about what she does that is just floating around out there. And then the last criteria is charismatic leader. I almost feel like we don't even need to address that.
Right.
It's so obvious.
She is very, very charismatic.
Yeah.
we're going to go watch a video of hers after this.
Great. Well,
just so you can see. I know you've seen her before, but like you need to see how she is now.
So if we don't make it to the next episode of Culture Just Weird.
Because we're living in Philia.
We're either living in Philia or I killed myself because of Teal Swan. But yeah, so she definitely, sounds charismatic. So obviously my bias before we talked about the criteria was that this was definitely a cult.
Yeah.
And now that we've talked about the criteria, I feel like my bias wasn't even strong enough. It's super definitely a cult. Almost to the point.
Is it a religion though?
Well, we're Culture Just Weird, not Culture Just Religion.
We should be Cult Weird Religion.
Okay, let's change our podcast name. Is it a cult, a weird, or a religion?
It could just be a weird religion.
Oh, a weird religion? So what would make it that as opposed to a cult? Just because it's big?
The bigness.
The bigosity?
The bigosity, and also the, like, you don't have to live on the commune to be part of it.
Is it a weird religion? Good question. I don't think it's big enough.
I think it's
established enough.
Yeah.
Like, come back in 1,000 years when there's an actual Martin Luther character that's, schismed from her or whatever. But
she does compare herself to Jesus.
We'll see if, when she eventually commits suicide or whatever, like then we'll see if it lasts.
Right.
Past her death.
Also, I do want to say, I don't know how many times we've said it on this, but you're not supposed to say commit suicide anymore.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it like criminalizes it.
Oh, interesting.
It's
the word
like
commit
you're
is
committing a crime.
Yeah.
You're like supposed to.
So what
say
is the
died by suicide?
Death by suicide. Okay.
Like they died by suicide.
Got
or
it.
They were a victim of suicide. Like I'm sure I said it during this podcast too, but I just caught it. Like
it's hard to
committed's no longer
that. Yeah.
The correct, and it's been a harmful way of saying it.
No, I'm happy to try to change that mode of speaking because it's super serious. And again, like even though we're like sort of joking around a little bit about this because this person's dangerous and evil, I don't mind joking about her.
Right.
Obviously, if you're feeling anything like this, please go seek help.
There is help for suicide.
There's a suicide hotline.
There's a text line. There's always a therapist you can reach out to. There's support groups. There are people who actually know how to help. And Teal Swan should probably not be the first place you go to. Right.
Yeah. So I think it's a pretty clear-cut cult to the point where I kind of want to ask you, what made you choose Teal Swan? Did you not know like how intensely culty and crazy it was before you started your research?
The only experience I had was the experience I had from 3 years ago.
Right.
With her weird-ass website.
Right.
I knew she'd gotten like bigger, but I didn't know it was this.
Yeah, me either. Like, I guess you're right. Like, from what you had talked about 3 years ago, where it's like, listen to this woman's crazy backstory.
Right.
And then you showed me a few weird videos of her talking. that could totally just be weird.
Right.
But now that you've told me all this other stuff, I'm like, whoa, that's definitely a cult.
Right. But I mean,
like, I feel more strongly about that than I think even about RSE.
I think that there's a lot of similarities, and I think that the thing that tips us over the top is the suicide thing. If you take it,
take it
out, like if you took that out, I think it would be on the same like gray area as RSE.
Yeah, I think it would be very RSE-ish if it weren't for the harm, because like RSE, that was one of the things that was pulling me in the other direction with them, was like, how harmful are they really?
Right.
Like, obviously Jay-Z is like a racist jackass, but like, you know, how harmful is it to tell someone like, you can be your best self and spirit crystals, here you go.
Right.
Like, that's not that bad, I guess. So that's why that was like a little more gray area. But that's like the harmfulness that you have communicated to me about Teal Swan makes me go like, whoa, no, yeah, they're bad news. Whew.
It's a cult.
It's a cult.
Guys, don't don't follow Teal Swan. Don't follow her teachings.
Ooh, so how do we wrap this episode up? It's been like super heavy. It may have been 2 episodes.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely going to be 2 episodes.
We may have ruined a whole month of our viewers' lives or listeners' lives.
Sorry, guys. It's important to talk about. It's important to like shine light on these kinds of people where like, yeah, there's going to be people that it helps, but like we should be remembering the fact that this is really dangerous.
Right. It's playing with fire for sure.
And satanic ritual abuse
doesn't exist. Right.
Abuse exists.
Abuse
Satanists
exists, but that
exist. I'm not saying Satanists are abusers, but like these things all separately exist. But the concept of satanic ritual abuse that was like the basis of satanic panic does not exist. There's no evidence of it. There's only evidence of it being disproved.
Right. Yeah. Man, I thought my next episode's topic was going to be like heavy. But I think you out-heavied me. So yeah, we'll see. I think after that, I need to pick like a much lighter topic.
I think my next topic
We're going to scare people off.
My next topic is less content heavy, but maybe not lighter.
Yeah, remember when we were talking about Disney like a few hours ago?
Yeah.
I'm going to do something with that where it's like,
do Disney.
It's Happy Cartoons Cult. Yay. Next time on Cult You're Just Weird. Well, that was a thing.
That was a thing.
Thank you for
sticking around for 5 episodes, maybe 6. I don't know.
Please go rate us on iTunes.
Rate, review, subscribe, share, follow us on Twitter, on Insta, on Facebook. You can email us at culturejustweird@gmail.com. We'll answer. We got nothing better to do.
And even more important than that, take care of yourself and take care of your mental health.
Check out our show notes if you need any resources. Email us if you need to talk. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to claim to have the only answers like Teal Swan, but maybe I can, be a voice there to answer you back. I don't know. culturejustweird@gmail.com.
culturejustweird@gmail.com.
So yeah, this is Chris.
This is Kayla.
And this has been
Cult or Just Weird. Are we supposed to say it at the same time? How do we end this podcast?
I don't know. That's just sort of winged it there. Wung it.
You want me to say cult and you say or just
Should
weird?
Should we sing it?
Cult or Just Weird.